Welcome to Tag Connect. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing about mental health and its impact on the youth. So take this time to listen carefully as our youth share their experiences with mental health. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Tag Connect. I am your host, Alan, and I hope you all are having a very nice day, even though it's kind of rainy outside and the weather looks bad. So let's get into it. So, as most of you know, we are in the month of October, which is which the month of October is classified as Mental Health Awareness Month. So today we are going to be just discussing about something very important concerning our youth dealing with mental health. So joining me today is one of our frontliners of Tag Youth Ambassadors. She is very, very outspoken and she seems to be very, very involved in her community and ways to impact the youth and also bring positivity towards youth image. Please help me welcome Kyla to the show. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Kyla.
Hi, guys.
Okay,
It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of this Saturday. I know like you'd rather prefer staying home to relax a bit, and you're taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Okay, so let's get into it. So, as we all know, there is a very big stigma surrounding youth dealing with mental health. Um, so one of the biggest stigma about you dealing with mental health is that, as a young person, you have life handed to you on a silver platter, right? All you have to do is just focus on school and you live rent free. You don't have to worry about anything, no bills, no kids, nothing. So what is your like can you tell me some stigmas that you yourself you've dealt with and like how how did you deal with those stigmas, and what do you think
Meaning
like stigma, like I'm talking about like some kind of negative, like some kind of like negative
impact
impact, yeah,
that happened
yeah,
to you in the
yeah,
past.
like a feedback, yeah.
Okay. Like I think really some stigmas that I've gone through in my life is like me not having like my dad around
Mhm.
me all the time.
Yeah,
So I guess like I always had my mom around me.
yeah,
So like my mom was always as independent. So I was always my mom always gave me expectations. I always had certain expectations growing up. So I was like straight A's, go straight to school, you'll be fine. You'll never be depressed if you go straight to school. Straight A's, come straight home. You have food handed to you, free food and everything. You shouldn't be depressed because you have everything handed to you.
yeah,
Like you shouldn't be sad. So and I that made me and I didn't have my dad with me. So it's like I didn't have that extra support with me in the house to have my back with that. So I felt like I was alone. So it was like it just shaped how I am because I'm just not as I'm outspoken now because I know how it is to feel like not heard
yeah,
in the household when it comes to that.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, so one of the biggest things within the youth having to do with mental health is the gender discrimination with the youth, especially with young men, right, with teenage boys, because
Yeah.
yeah, because growing up as a young guy, growing up as a young man, you're always thought, okay, you gotta toughen up,
Yeah, you're not
dust
supposed to
yourself off,
cry.
exactly, you're not supposed to show any emotion, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and just move on. And I do have like a statistic here that shows that there's a survey from the CDC that showed that the the depression rate of within young boys actually was up 21 to 29% from 2011 to 2021. So my question to you, Kyla, is what are your views? I know that we're in 20 we're still in the 21st century, right? But we still have this 50s and 60s mentality of how a young man is supposed to be. What are your views and your opinion about that?
I feel like a lot of people, like I said, downplay how men feel like they're so told not to cry. Boys are not supposed to cry. They cannot supposed to. They're supposed to be the man of the house. They're supposed to show that dominance in the house, or like in that area or like that situation. But I feel like a lot of men go through a lot more because they're told to hold it in, and they're not allowed to express it, so they feel like it's just okay not to express it, so they just keep it bottled in, and then when it gets to that point, they get angry and they blow up. Like you see a lot of men now have a lot of anger issues because they're told to hold it in, and when they hold it in, they have to express it in that type of way.
Right.
Cause that's the only way they know how to.
Yeah.
So I just feel like a lot of men like should feel. I feel like they should feel comfortable enough to like speak up, but like what's going on now in 2023, a lot of people are just told to like they're not supposed to speak. A lot of men are like sassy if they're like showing their emotions, and it's just like it's not fair to them because a lot of females in their life put that pressure on them, like putting that emotional responsibility on them,
Yeah.
and it's like they have to deal with their emotional responsibility on top of what's going on in their life, and then it's like a burden to them, and like they can't really do a lot with it. So it's just like I feel like a lot of men should just feel more comfortable speaking and sharing their emotions with other people.
Yeah, yeah. Very, you brought up a very, very interesting point about, sharing your emotions. Because sometimes, people expect that, when you share your emotion, you have to go through some kind of traumatic experience. Like you have to go through some really huge event that somehow impacted or changed or changed your life. So my question to you is: does it necessarily have to be a traumatic experience?
No, I don't think it's necessarily a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people go through mental health and those like depressive stages through just going to school sometimes, or like you said, like with COVID 2023, the pandemic,
Yeah.
going through that caused a lot of mental health
Yeah.
raises to rise. So it's like it's not only you don't need to have a traumatic experience to have a mental health.
Yeah. Very interesting point because it could be something as simple as going through a big change. Like when you brought up
Exactly.
COVID, it could be something as simple as going through a big change. And also, one of the biggest causes of mental health, especially within the colored community, right? One of the biggest causes of mental health was the issue of racism and racial discrimination, which actually has played a big role um, with the impact of mental health, especially on young people. Because I know that, especially like during the pandemic, when the whole issue of George Floyd came up, we saw like a lot of young people were in the streets protesting about it. So what are your views, especially being, a person of color? Like, what are your views on dealing with mental health when it's especially within the colored community?
Um, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel a lot of people that colored people are always like. I honestly don't really have an opinion. I don't know. Like I really don't think that. A lot of people feel like downplay the fact that like African Americans or people of color are not like they're not. They shouldn't feel depressed. Like they like white people are privileged, so like they're always happy
Yeah.
and jolly, and like colored people should always be like I don't know. Like they have them at this level where it's just like they're never gonna leave. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah.
But I don't really have like a very like deep like understanding of the topic about it. Like,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the big, especially, especially myself, that based on my own experiences, having to, especially a black person who has African parents, right? Because in my household, right, one of the things that my parents believe in is that, if I was to tell my parents that, oh, ma, I'm depressed, right, she'd probably think, it's a demonic thing, right? Like you're being possessed by demons. So, yeah. What is your advice? Like something that you would give to parents who have this mentality of, oh, it's probably like a demon possessed thing, and like there's a demon within my child. Like, what is your opinion about that?
I like honestly like I've dealt with I have parents like that. Like I didn't under like I my mom and my dad they never every time I tell them that I'm like feeling no type of way and I try to like express that to them and like try it's always hard to get that across because there's like oh why are you feeling like that like what like ¿por qué tú estás haciendo-" like it's always something with them saying like why you shouldn't be feeling this way because you have everything handed to you like in a
Yeah.
silver platter.
Yeah.
You have a house to live on, your roof over your head, you live like you have food on your table, so there should be no reason why you're depressed. So I feel like my advice to kids out there is keep trying.
Yeah.
Honestly, because keep telling them like how you feel. Keep trying to force them to listen to you. Cause I went through that with my mom. My mom never used to listen to me when I was a kid. My dad, I was always shut out by him. And now it's like since I've joined Tag, Miss Jenna has taught me to like always don't, if nobody listens to you, make them listen to you. Make them listen to you. Your voice matters.
Yeah.
I started speaking to my mom. I started to sit her to the side like, hey mom, can I speak to you? This is how I this that and this is how I feel, and she wouldn't understand, and I would have to be like, ma, this is really what's going on. Like, just really explain it to them because they don't really get it and they don't really understand until you actually like break it down. And it's like my mom didn't understand that, didn't see that until now. My mom now is very open to me speaking to her. I'm very open speaking to my mom now about how I feel. I'm still a little like shaky about my dad like speaking to him, but like my mom, I'm very open to that. So I feel like just keep trying to force them to listen to you
Right.
because your voice matters. They're gonna listen to you one day because your cries are gonna be heard one day.
Yeah.
It's gonna be get to that point.
Yeah. It's a very interesting point when you brought up, confiding in other people because, sometimes you may not have someone around who's always going to be able to listen to you. Because I do have like the statistic here, so it's something very very interesting because. Majority of youth always feel that there's never ever someone around to listen to them. There's never someone around to hear them, to listen to them. And normally they find other ways out of it, right? They find other channels out of it. And, you know, if they don't get the proper influence, I feel like, getting the proper influence when you have to deal with stuff like this. Because sometimes, they rather like confide in their friends.
Yeah, with friends, drugs,
exactly.
doing anything else like that's gonna steer them the wrong way. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can personally like advocate for that. Like there was a time when I first started high school that like I was very like in the depressive state where my mom was not listening to me. I was like acting out in school. I wasn't doing well in school. I was like I didn't confide in my mom as much. I was with my friends, smoking, like doing everything that I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
Later on, that's when I had first joined tag, and then I had like Magina was teaching me how to like the different like there's other sides to things, like a different perspective from
Yeah.
it. So it's like you understand. So I feel like sorry. I just feel like ooh, I lost my train of thought. Ooh.
Yeah, you were talking about how Miss Janet helped you through it.
Through that because it's like when you find other sources like God and
Yeah.
you find other sources like a mentor,
Yeah.
those sources can it changes your perspective because you're speaking to someone that's been through it and understands, and then you have guidance like going to your friends are people that like they're going through the same thing you're going through. They can't support you in ways that a mentor can. They can show you ways, point you to different opportunities that can help you make you happy and like make you feel less like in that depressive state or like in that like in those stages. So I feel like a mentor would be like it's just way better than seeking like drugs or speaking to your friends about those issues because they can't help you like anybody else can. How like an older or someone that's been through it.
Yeah, very, very interesting point. I also want to go back to youth having the opportunity to confide in someone, because sometimes like not all younger people get lucky, because it ends up leading to suicides. So I actually have like the statistics here, which shows like the amount of suicide rates go up. So I actually have it here from the World Health Organization that says 1 in 6 people aged 10 to 19 are more likely to commit a suicide. And yeah, 1 in 6 youth from 10 to 19 are more likely to commit suicide based on some kind of physical, emotional, and social changes that has affected their mental health. So sometimes, like not all people are lucky.
Enough to get those.
Exactly enough to get those opportunities. And with these statistics, people kind of brush it aside and say, oh, they brush it aside and they say, oh, maybe he was in a gang, or
Yeah,
maybe
they resort to
something like
anything
that.
negative for
Yeah.
they resort everything negative.
Negative,
first.
yeah, yeah,
And they just I feel like when you said 10 to 19, those are the years that
The-
kids are developing.
yeah.
That's when their brain is still like trying to understand what's going on. Like they have like from 1 to 10, but then from 10 to 19 when they're going into real life.
Right.
So it's like they need those mentors, but some people don't get as lucky as
So
that.
yeah, yeah,
And they need those mentors when they're growing up at those ages because that's when they're developing into them. If they don't have that right guidance, they're gonna go into like gangs and
yep,
going into like resorting to things that are not gonna be beneficial to them.
yeah, yeah. Very, very interesting point. Um, I also would like to like bring up a very, very important topic regarding the suicide attempts because a couple of years ago, a 12-year-old Texas boy, right? So it says here that a 12-year-old hanged himself when he was battling depression during COVID-19. So like COVID, when when the pandemic hit, COVID was a really big big thing during the pandemic. Sorry, during 2020
Yeah.
because we were all confined in our homes. We were able to go outside. We were able to interact with people, and that was when the issue of mental health became a big thing. And then this 12-year-old Texas boy, battling depression, battling being lonely and being alone, eventually hangs himself. And I probably think, one of the things that I think was his dad said that, his father said that COVID killed his son, right? And I feel like for a father to say that, I mean, for you to say that COVID killed your son, I think that like, excuse me to say, but I think that's a very ridiculous excuse because as a father who is home with your son, you should somehow have some time to
Spend time with him and
spend time with him,
understand what's
talk to
going
him.
on and why
Exactly.
those steps even led to him
Right.
going to it. If you're
Right.
confined in his home, there should be there's something going on inside of the house
Yeah.
that pushed him to that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't COVID.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't
I
COVID. Yeah,
completely agree.
yeah, yeah. So, I want to also ask you this question. Do you think that? So let's go back to like before COVID, right? So like before COVID, everybody was engaged and having fun and having a good time, and now during COVID and after COVID, we see that the topic of mental health has somehow gone up, right? So do you think, not even think, but do you believe that even though the topic of mental health has somehow increased after, like, during COVID, do you think that there's a possibility that it still might go down and it still might not be brought up again until we have like another pandemic?
I feel like honestly no. I feel like this topic is still gonna be spoken about. It's never gonna stop. I feel like now that it's been out in the open now, and a lot of the youth right now are very invested in that. Are now and they're more into like wanting to speak about their emotions and not be scared to speak about it because it's 2023. A lot of people we lost a lot of people during COVID due like to suicides to COVID-19. A lot of people throughout the years have just been in the depressive state since COVID, and we've lost them. So it's like now they're not afraid to. I feel like the youth of 2023 are not scared to speak about it. They're not scared to speak about their emotions, and mental health is never gonna not be a decreased topic.
Decreased topic.
It's always
right?
gonna keep rising. It's gonna keep rising. There's more youth coming in. There's more youth growing. There's more youth realizing what's actually going on. They're gonna keep wanting to speak out about it, and I really feel like this topic is never gonna stop. It's gonna keep increasing.
All right. Yeah, yeah. Very, very
Do
good.
you believe that it's gonna increase or decrease?
I mean, I think it's still going to increase because, like before the pandemic, everybody, like, everything was a-okay, right? Everything was cool. Everything was like not like everything was cool, but then there was still like the topic of mental health, but it wasn't like really brought up as much as it is now.
Now, yeah, exactly.
Because I remember, like watching this documentary about, Oprah recently did a documentary, a Netflix documentary series called The Me You Can't See. And, she interviewed several people who talked about mental health. And there was a certain boy who, he went through like a certain traumatic experience, and sadly he lost his family, and he really didn't have anybody to confide in, to talk to. And after watching the documentary, I realized that how very fortunate I am, because he went through like a very traumatic experience, and sometimes I have to deal with certain depressions and issues of my own. But I realized that he's lucky because he had someone who helped him to deal with that, because not all kids are very lucky to
Exactly.
go through something like that. Because if he didn't have anyone to confide in, to talk to about it, to help him deal with it, he would have probably grown up to be a very, very violent person.
Very like angry.
Yeah, very angry. So it's a very, very interesting point. I think that it is a topic that's really going to be increasing. And I also want to talk about the age about mental health, because it's from 10 to 19. And around that age, you go through a lot of changes, right? You go through a lot of changes emotionally, socially, and especially one of the biggest issues um, around you deal with mental health, especially in college, right?
Exactly.
Because I
I
know
was
that
just
you,
about to bring it up.
yeah, because I know that you recently started college.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest issues with college students is they think that taking substances is usually the answer out, is the way out to deal with certain issues. Um, and I want you to just take a moment to just, I just want you to just take a moment to just talk about it. It's like, what are your views on college students who think that if I'm dealing with a certain stressful moment, depression throughout college because my classes are taking too long, I have so much going on, and they're taking these substances to help deal with that. Like, what is your advice to those college students?
In my opinion, I feel like me being in college now, like it's very like I'm not gonna lie, it's very stressful. I feel like Alan, you're in college too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's very stressful. I'm a freshman. I just started. What year are you in?
I'm in my senior year now.
You're a senior. I'm pretty sure like you're about to graduate. Like
Yeah.
it's getting serious now.
Yeah.
So it's like my year's just started. It is getting stressful. Like I'm very stressed with school right now because I also do work and I
Yeah.
have like two jobs and then I have to go to school in the morning.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the kids, like the youth that are using drugs to like get over the stress and the anxiety and that like overload that they're getting, that overwhelming feeling that they're like probably not that they're not done yet. But like I feel like using substances just isn't the answer. Honestly, I feel like it just causes more stress and anxiety in
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because using those substances just heals that pain in that moment. Once that high or once that drunk goes away, you're gonna get all those emotions back, and it's gonna hit you like a train. It's gonna hit you, slap you in the face like a train.
Yeah.
And it's better to deal with those emotions head on rather than just put them on hold and deal with them later. If you feel like you can't handle in that moment, you need to smoke or you need to drink or you need to do whatever. Call somebody. Call anybody that you feel like can help you get through that like moment. You can speak to and like confide in. Like a lot of people don't have that confinement, but I feel like a lot of people should just be open to just speak to anybody. Like me personally, I'm a very open person. So like when I'm outside, I speak to anybody. Like I'm very open,
Yeah.
and I speak to people every day. I'm on the train, and feel open to me to talk to me about what's going on in their life. I've like seen homeless people on the train that I've given money to, and they've started sitting next to me and having a whole conversation about like what's going on and how they got to that point. So I feel like a lot of people just need that. That like just that confinement and just find somebody that can help you get through that. Cause I just feel like substance abuse it's abuse.
Yeah.
And it's not helping you. It's just putting those emotions onto the side. Later on, you're gonna get those anxiety, that overwhelming feeling all over again because you're gonna feel sober. You're not gonna. That feeling is not gonna be there anymore.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate to it because I know exactly. This is a true story. Like, honest to God, true story. Like, so I remember my sophomore year of college. I had just started working. I was taking care of myself. I was working. I had a lot of classes. I was working two jobs. I had so much going on and so much to deal with, and it got to a point where I was like, this is too much for me, right? I was like, this is too much for me, and weekends will come and my friends will be like, yo, like, you need to like chill out, like let's go to a party. And believe it or not, I would just go to these parties and I would just ball out, just have a good time, just get drunk, get wasted, and I feel so much better. But then in the morning, I realized I had this really huge hangover. And also were times when, one of the biggest things in college is the fact that most college students, they take something called Adderall, right? It just keeps you focused. So I was like, keep me focused. I was like, I sit behind a desk and I'm working and I'm falling asleep. And I'm like, I would really, really wish to take one of these pills someday. Like it was a thought. It
A
was a
thought,
thought.
yeah.
It was a thought. But I realized that, I don't, I realized that I have my life ahead of me. I realized that
Exactly.
I have something that I want to accomplish. And I knew that if I take this, because it was a thought, right? It was a thought, but something was like, you have your life ahead of you, get that thought out of your head because you have your life ahead of you and you know what to accomplish, you know what you want to accomplish. Because there have been like a lot of college students who have taken it and, it helped them focus, but then they overdosed and then they ended up shortening their lives, right? And, you don't get to accomplish the things that you need. So, college students, if you're watching, please stay off the drugs. I mean,
Please.
please. I mean, because
Please.
you have your whole life ahead of you. We don't want you shortening your life. You have your whole life ahead of you. And if you can't, it's very, very important for you to seek help, right? Because colleges have counselors. There's a counseling and wellness office. Please make sure to always make that appointment with your counseling and wellness office and always reach out to your advisor because I feel like that is a very, very important thing because finding that one adult on your campus, in your school, to talk to confide in is very, very important.
Um,
And
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to touch back on like what you mentioned about college students, about you feeling like you
Yeah,
were taking on too much,
yeah,
you were working and being in school. I feel like that now, and I feel like a lot of college students now feel like that too, that they're working and like in school as well too, just trying to like live that double life to provide for themselves and also just be in that education path as well too, so still stay in school. Right now I do feel like I am taking a lot right now, and I feel like I'm like overworking myself, and I feel like I'm overwhelming myself. So like I also feel like another advice that I would give to like the youth out there, like anybody that's in college, because they're in school right now, is just like if you feel like you're taking on too much, just relax and just like just take one of those loads off of you. Like somebody told me that like you're still young, like you still have your life ahead of you to work. Like I'm 18, I just turned 18 in June, so I feel like I have my life ahead of me to work. I feel like I know that school is always gonna be there, but I know that I'm gonna be in school for my career. So if you feel like you're taking on too much, if you need to put off school, put off work, I feel like do what you have to do and to make yourself happy so you can be more at peace.
right.
Because I feel like a lot of college students, that's also another thing they get stressed about because they feel like they're overwhelming themselves and taking on too much.
Yeah.
Because the assignments in college are a lot.
Are a lot.
Are a lot. And then you're going to work like almost 8, 10 hour shifts
Yep.
to do that. And it's just like, it's a lot. You're standing, you're not really sleeping, you're
Yeah.
not really eating, you're always just like working, trying to focus on what to do next. But I feel like most people are not worried about now and like the present day. I feel like everybody's just so worried about rushing to the future and just rushing. So I feel like a lot of people, I think college should just slow down, and just like take your time because you have your life ahead of you right now, and you're gonna have your whole life to work, your whole life to have fun. Just go to school and live your life, honestly.
And I also want to bring up what you said about taking on so much because I remember being in college, I wanted to show my parents that I'm responsible. So I
Exactly.
decided to like take too much on my shoulders because I was like I want to show that I'm capable of taking
Exactly.
care of myself. I was working, doing two jobs, going this, doing that. And there was a point where my junior year, I was actually doing an internship. And, I wasn't just only, being an intern my junior year. I had so much going on. I was in so many clubs on campus. I was working on campus. I was also part of TAG. I was here. I was there. Um, and then one day I went to the office of my internship where I worked at, and I was fired. And I was so sad. I was like, like I really, really need this internship because this internship I know that is probably going to help me get a job. I realized that instead of me instead of me feeling sad about being fired from an internship that I that I've worked so hard to apply for. I sit up all nights filling out applications after applications. Instead of me feeling sad about it, I felt like a weight had been lifted
Lifted off.
off me because I feel like, I was going here and I was going there. I was on my feet all the time and I was tired. But when I was relieved from my job, I realized that, there's like a weight has been lifted off me. So if you feel like you're being stressed out and, you're taking on so many burdens, it's very, very important to take a moment and realize that I have so much on my plate. Let me just, if I could just take this out, if I could take that out. Um, I mean, if you want to, I mean, if you want to juggle so many things, at least maybe juggle like two or three things, but don't take like about all like five, six tasks all at once because you're only one person. And
Yeah.
I also remember there was a time when I had applied for a job and I had to like make a long commute to this job, and I texted Miss Janet. I called Miss Janet. Actually, yeah, actually, I think I texted or called her. No, no, no. I spoke with her. It was a tag night, and I after the night was over, I went to Miss Janet and I spoke with her about I got a job and it's a long commute and I have to make the schedule, and she said, well, you have to make sure that this job is going to fit your schedule because you have so many things going on at once, and I mean, you're going to have to work the rest of your life. But now I think it's really, really important for you to just focus on school and focus on what's important. And when she said that, I realized that, she's actually right because I realized that, look at my schedule and look at how far my job is. I have to make the long commute and I probably wouldn't come home to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and I have to get up the next morning and go to class.
Exactly.
And it might be too much. Taking a step back and realizing that it's too much is very, very, very important.
Also, I want to add on to you speaking about like taking on too much because you felt like you wanted to take on too much to like show your parents that you can handle that responsibility. I feel like that also goes into when we're talking about mental health. Like I feel like a lot of the people that are in college right now aren't doing it for themselves. I feel like if you want to go to college, go to college.
Go to
But if
college.
you feel like you don't want to go to college and you're doing it for somebody else,
Yep.
like your mom or your dad, don't go because you're not gonna be happy.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being generally honest, a lot of people are just not happy in college because they're doing it for somebody else and not doing
Somebody
it for
else.
them.
Yeah. 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 Very interesting point that you brought up. Because we talk about. Yeah, I think I did a paper on college once before. College pressures because, one of the things that when I started college, one of the pressures that I had was from my parents was pick a career or a job that's going to get you money. And I was like, get me money. What happened to enjoying my career? Like if I want to pick something, I'd rather pick something that I'm going to feel like I have a sense of
Fulfilled
purpose.
with
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, sure, the pay is important, but most importantly is the fulfillment.
Exactly.
Because you might go into, because I know people who they've gone through med school, they've gone through law school, especially med school. I know people who've gone through med school and now they're like stuck with a ton of bills that they have to pay. They're stuck with a ton of loans they have to pay back because they'll go through years of medical school, and then you have all these payments that you have to make back. You have to go through all the stress, um, and you eventually end up in a lot of debt, and you get stressed out. And also want to bring out a point of responsibility because one of the things that I did was when I started college, I told myself that my freshman year, my sophomore year, I'm going to Dorman College, and I decided that my third year and final year, I'm going to move out of my parents' house and find my own apartment. That was my mentality.
That was the goal.
That was the goal. And my junior year came. I found an apartment. And I was actually thinking about moving in. And then suddenly, I had a friend. He was an international student who, he came here from India and he lived in an apartment and he was working and paying his apartment. And I actually told him about what I plan on doing. And he gave me a very, very big advice that was contradictory to what my mom was telling me. Because one thing my mom said was, like there are friends your age who go to school, they rent an apartment, they're paying their own tuition, and what about you? Like, what are you doing? So it was very contradictory to what my friend told me because my friend was like, dude, I'm really struggling because I have to pay not only do I have to pay my bills, I also have to pay my tuition, I gotta buy food, I gotta pay my rent, I have like these subscriptions, these little subscriptions that I have to pay. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm gonna eat for the day. And I'm like, this is very contradictory to what my mom told me because as my mom, she's supposed to be telling me that slow down because you have your whole life ahead of you. Instead, I'm hearing it from a friend. And it's very, very important because I feel like parents sometimes play a role in stressing out their kids, in stressing
Stressing them
out
out more
their
than they have
more
to.
than they have to because they're putting so much on their shoulders. Um, because sometimes a parent would just say, like, um, you know, you're you're this age. Why don't you start like why don't you start working? And I'm like, I have to focus on school right now. And I remember, when I was 16, my mom was like pressuring me. I was 16 in high school. My mom was pressuring me about getting a job. And I was like, and I was sometimes I just stayed up all night, no sleep, just filling out job application, job application, job application. And my dad was like, leave him alone, like let him focus on school. And I feel like it's a very, very important thing. So my advice to parents out there, if you're watching, parents, please, I beg you, in the name of God, leave your kids alone because then you're gonna stress them out, and then there's gonna cause like big rifts between parent and child, and we don't want that. So it's a big factor. So parents, please, any parent who is watching, I beg you, in the name of God, if you see that your kid is being stressed out because you're telling them, do this, do that. And I don't mean telling them to do this, do that by chores. I mean telling them to get involved in things all at once and putting so much burden on your shoulders. Please, please, please take some time to talk to your kids. Take the time to talk with them
And
and
understand them.
understand them and listen to them because that's very, very important. Um, Yes, and I also want to take the time to bring out something very, very important about mental health because recently, as I watched the news, not only is this month a uh, mental health awareness month, but it's also National Bullying Awareness Month. And also, we realize that bullying is also a factor to teenagers dealing with mental health because, sometimes we realize that majority because we see on the news about school shootings, school attacks, and majority of these attackers are students um who've actually dealt with a traumatic experience going to school and being in school and being attacked and bullied in school. Kyla, I want you to just tell me about like what are some ways that we can actually help with that situation? Basically, students. Like, what are some ways that students can just help each other dealing with this kind of
With what,
situation?
bullying
Yeah, with
in the
bullying
schools?
and how it affects like the mental health of another student.
I feel like bullying in the schools affect a lot of the kids now because it's I feel like now in 2023, like the past 2022, 2023,
Yeah.
it's increased
Yeah.
because of like how privileged this new generation is.
Mm.
I feel like so I feel like a lot of people and I feel like they're more cocky. Like a lot of the kids have stuff that other kids may not have.
Mhm.
So I feel like that has risen as well too. And I feel like just the bullying student on student is just like it has to stop. Like
Mm.
I feel like, and if you see somebody that's being bullied, if you see somebody that's being treated a way that you know is not okay,
Mm.
step in
Mm.
and try to solve the situation or find an adult to like get in the middle of that situation because I feel like the bullying rates have only risen in middle schools. I feel like middle schools and high schools, because that's when they're more like developing and trying to like figure their way out, trying to find their clique, like where they fit in and everything. So they're trying to figure that out. So I feel like it's been risen there. So I feel like if you see somebody being bullied, tell an adult. Please tell an adult, because I feel like that child goes home thinking about what that bully said to them that day, goes home and has to deal with that at home, not knowing what that person or that child is dealing with at home, on top of what's going on at school. So it's like, I feel like tell an adult. If you see something going on, tell an adult, because that can help that other child and the child bullying too. Because 9 out of 10, the person that's doing the bullying has something going on at home. They have something going on at home and they need the help. That's probably their cry for help. Bullying somebody else is just a cry for help. So at the end of the day, I just feel like having that guidance for both those kids. So if you see something like that, tell an adult so they can both get that help. Because they both, at the end of the day, have something going on in their life. This person may not have it, but the person doing the bullying may be the one that needs help. So yeah.
Yeah, very interesting point, Kyla. I think one of the point we really brought up a great point about schools, because I feel like sometimes most of these kids in the schools are not being heard. They're not being provided with the help that they need. And I feel like it has to do with less organizations, less activities for them
Exactly.
in the schools. I think
Exactly.
it's very, very important that, if a child is not getting the counseling that they need from an adult within the school, or an adult from, from home, or an adult anywhere, I think one of the biggest things that they need is to get involved in some kind of activity that, or program that they can be involved in, and take out that anger, take out that frustration. Because I believe, like, we do have we have coach from PAL who,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Coach David, yeah.
yeah, Coach Davids, he actually, gets involved with the kids,
Exactly. And like, sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like I really do agree with you. Like I feel like there are less organizations being funded that are actually doing the work. I feel like a lot of the organizations that are out right now aren't putting in the work that other organizations would be doing right now. Tag right now, we're in over 20 schools, and I feel like I've been in most of the schools that Miss Janet and Rev has been into, and I've seen the difference in these kids. I've gone to schools with Miss Janet, and me and Amy have done social and emotional learning, every Monday with those kids, and we were doing it for I think about like a month or two for during the summer, and I can see the difference between these kids when they have a different mentorship, when they have like that guidance inside of the schools.
Right.
So I feel like more organizations should be into the schools, more activity should be in the school system, like basketball, football, these sports, clubs, anything, like something to just keep these kids occupied so they're not resorting to something that's not beneficial to them. So like Coach David, I met Coach David like I think last year, yes, and all the youth kids that's been in our program have gone to his program and they've loved playing basketball with his and his team, and their team is like family.
Yeah.
They come and they treat each other like family. When they come to the SAC, they treat us like family. So I feel like organizations have a big part in the school system because they create that family bond and connection. They build that bridge. Just like how TAG does with us. People have joined TAG and I've seen them grow. I know, Allie, you've been here longer than me, and you've seen people grow. You've seen me grow. You've seen a lot of people in the program grow from just having that guidance and that mentorship and just that occupation and just feeling they have purpose. Having that activity, you feel like you have something to do, like, oh, you have something to look forward to. Like, oh, if I'm playing basketball, oh yeah, I have a game today. I'm gonna win the game. Coming to TAG, I'm always thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in and impact a different kid today. I'm gonna go in and impact a different person today, because I know that I have that power to, and you know that these organizations have the power to do that as well too.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And also, it's not just activities in schools. It should also be activities within the community as well.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's not just influences in schools, also it's influences within the streets with several with several friends that they have in their neighborhoods who introduce them to several whether it's a gang or it's drugs or something else. And I think that's also very, very important, putting these programs and activities for kids to get engaged in schools. Because reason why I say that is because I myself I was part of an organization which is called a Play Street in the Bronx. Shout out to Ms. Lani of Play Street, which is on St. Jennings, is on Prospect Avenue. She actually had an open street where kids within the community could just come and just have some kind of activity to
Just be
do,
kids.
basketball, football, just play at the park. Help the kids with their homework. Listen to them, check out how they're doing, how they're feeling. And one thing that Miss Lonnie does is that she takes her time, gets to know the kids in the neighborhood, invites the kids. She's like, "Look, we're having this, and you can bring your kid. You can invite your kid. We have coloring books. We have jump rope. We have this for the kids, just for the kids, for them to get involved in." And when I got involved in that, I realized that this is something really amazing. I felt like a sense of purpose. I felt like I'm creating some kind of positivity within the community, within the Bronx, within St. Jennings, within Prospect Avenue. I felt like this is really great for kids because, after kids come out and they go out and they hang out, most kids they go out and if they're not looking for trouble, they get into some kind of trouble. And
Because they're bored. They're looking for
exactly,
something just to have fun.
exactly, they're looking for something to do, something because and they're bored. So yes, it's very, very important. We should
I
fund more programs within our community.
I agree because a lot of the kids that are in the community, like you mentioned in the community, I feel like a lot of the kids in the community don't know about the organization. They don't
Hmm.
know about the resources in their
Exactly.
own communities.
Right.
So I feel like us promoting that in their community is just letting them know that we're here.
Mm.
We're here if you need us. We're
Mm.
here if you need the support.
Mm.
Just to let them know.
Mm.
A lot of people don't. There's a lot of organizations that are on this same very block on this or maybe upwards that a lot of people don't know about because they're not being promoted.
Mhm.
So if they're not being promoted, how are they gonna know about it?
Mm.
So I feel like the promotion part is a very big part of it because a lot of people don't know.
Mm.
That's the thing. A lot of people just don't know where they are, where the resources at. So they feel lost and they go somewhere else.
Mm.
So if they knew about it, they would come.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if they knew about it, they'd definitely be there. Because sometimes, most of these programs are not even offered in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
And
A lot of the kids that I come to tag in the office, like when I come out of school and I stay here for like 4 hours maybe, and I'm here like around the time where TMA comes out of school. So like and TMA and Democracy Prep.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids come to the office. Me, Amy walk outside in the streets. We say hi to the kids. We're always like telling them, hey, we're tag. We're letting them know what we're about. We're letting them know where we're at. If you want to come, there are a lot of kids that come back looking for me and Amy, looking for all the other tag ambassadors. Like, oh, where's Justin? Oh, where's Angel? Where's Kyla? Where's Amy? Looking for us because they felt that connection, even with just letting them know that we're here.
Mhm.
They come, they talk to Miss Janet, they come, have a seat, and just chill. So it's like just reaching out to them and letting them know that we're here is just a very big part of it.
And also promoting youth on youth positivity.
Exactly.
Because that's what this is basically about.
Exactly.
We are promoting youth positivity. We just want to change the world's perspective about the youth because, a lot of people think, if a youth is going through trouble, then, it's probably because they're involved in something they're not supposed to. And you can't just you can't just judge somebody based on like what you see. Like you have to get to know them and understand them and listen to them before you can go ahead and jump to conclusions.
Exactly.
And that is very, very important.
And I want to add on to that, like what you said, like I feel like that narrative of youth, that if there's something going on with them, they're involved in the game.
Mm.
They're involved in something that they should not be involved in, and that's why they're acting this way.
Mm.
So I feel like changing, that's what we're all about right now. Like
Mhm.
I feel like that's what tag is all about. We're trying to just change that narrative on how people see youth and how these adults, how these elected officials see the youth,
Mm.
because we have changed that perspective on a lot of elected officials and a lot of people in this community.
Mm.
A lot of people don't see the youth in that bad perspective as much
Yeah.
because they're seeing the youth doing the work. They
Mm.
see there's a lot of kids out there doing the work.
Mhm.
We are out here trying to change that perspective
Mm.
because a lot of people don't see us like that, and we're not those kids that are out there doing what those kids
What
are
those kids
doing.
are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're here to help those kids. We're
Yeah.
trying to help those kids reach out to them, try to understand why they're doing that, so we can find the resources for them. So, oh, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I just feel like just changing that narrative is what we're trying to do. So if you feel like there's something going on and you want to make a difference and you have something to say about it, come to Tag, come and speak to us about it, because we will make that we can change, make that change happen. We can take the steps to speak to the people, get you at the seat at the table to speak to these people that can make the change. We have the connects, we have the people who know what's going on. So I feel like that's all we're trying to do right now, is to change that perspective and that narrative.
Yeah, definitely. And you really brought up a great point. You always got to make that connection.
Exactly.
You always got to make that connection.
You never know who's in the room.
Exactly.
You never know who you're sitting at the table with.
Right.
You never know. Your voice could change so many lives in just that moment. You never know who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I forgot who it was. Boubacar, I think it was Boubacar. He was speaking to somebody. No, Fatu.
Yeah.
Fatu.
Yeah.
We went to this play and we were talking and we saw this guy and we just started speaking to him. And we're looking at him, we're like, you look so familiar. Like you look like somebody that we know. Me, Amy, and Fatu, and we're just saying like, we look somebody you know. We asked him what was his name. We said Adams, and that was Eric Adams' brother. So we're like, oh, we're having a conversation with him, telling him what Tag is all about, and we didn't know that was even Eric Adams' brother. Eric Adams knows about Tag, but his brother did not know about Tag. Okay. So once he figured out about Tag, once we started speaking to him and just showing that connection, that positivity, he just automatically just started to love Tag and love the organization and just wanted to know more about it in that moment. So it's just you not knowing who you're speaking to in that moment that can change you and can open doors for you. It can open so many doors for you in that moment.
Yeah. And also just goes to show that it doesn't matter what age you are.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how old you are. You can still be outspoken. You're never too young to speak up. You are never too young to speak up. And also parents need to stop saying to their kids, you're a child, what do you know? Because believe it or not, there are so many things that you can learn from kids. So many things that you can learn from kids, because sometimes I learned so much from my little brother. Example, like there are so many things that I learned from my little brother. He's 15, I'm 22, I'm the oldest, but sometimes there are things that I learned from him, and he also learns things from me, right? And there are also things that I learned from kids that are 5 years old.
So, like, I'm here in Tag, and I come to speak to Miss Janet, and I see Isabella and Mila here.
Exactly.
They're like my little sisters,
right?
And they're teaching me something new every day, every single day.
Yep.
And Isabella and Mila are 8 and 7.
8 and 7, and they already have leadership qualities. Qualities in them.
Ooh.
I mean, seriously, like you're never too young to be outspoken. Because I remember this one time. This was like during the pandemic, and I saw something on the internet that shocked me. I mean, there was this little girl who was actually at the protest of George Floyd. She was actually chanting and walking with them. And it just goes to show you're never too young to be outspoken. And parents, please listen to your kids. If they have something to share, please have the time to listen to them. Because you might never know. I mean, you just humble yourself. I know you're older, I know that you're wiser, but you just got to be humble, have some humility, and listen to them, because you might never know what you can learn, what you can get from these children. Because believe it or not, these children, they are our future leaders, and they are our future leaders. So with that being said, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Kyla, for coming here this afternoon.
No problem. It's good to be here. Yeah. I love the conversation for today.
Thank you. Yes, so thank you very much, Kyla, for being here. With that being said,
one last thing I just feel like one last thing I want to say is just like, to the youth, if you're out there, if you're listening to me, I just feel like, don't be like what Alan said, don't be scared. Don't be scared to be outspoken. I was one of those kids. I was never like this. I would never go to anybody and say, hi, how are you? Like, and just ask about their day. So I feel like just putting yourself out there and making yourself open to those opportunities, just make sure you're doing that. So you never know what position you're gonna be in and what position you can be in the future just by doing that. So just be yourself, be outspoken, and don't be scared to say what you gotta say.
That's right. And also a message to all the young men out there. Young men, if you're listening, and I just want the young men to just take a moment to just listen and listen carefully, right? If you're going through something and you need to speak to somebody and you need to just share your emotions, just bawl out, cry, doesn't matter. It doesn't make you weak. It shows that you need help. It shows that you're going through something and you need help. Do not be afraid to ask for help. I get it. You're a man. Yes, men are supposed to be strong, but sometimes there's this moment of weakness. And within that moment of weakness, you have to seek for help, because if you don't, you're going
You're
to
gonna
be
lose it.
lost. Yeah, you're going to lose it, and you're just going to lose your mind. So, young men, do not be afraid to seek help.
And don't let anybody make you feel like you can't speak.
Yeah.
Don't let. I know a lot of like men out there. Like I understand. Like I seen a lot of females put like men down and make them feel like they cannot speak or voice how they feel in relationships, friendships, or like parent son relationships. Don't be scared to do that. Like if you feel like shut out and you feel ignored, leave. If you don't feel listened to, I feel like you need to find someone or find something that will listen to you. Don't feel unappreciated. Do not feel like you need to hide yourself or hide how you feel. If you feel like that, find someone that can help you with that, and find someone who's gonna appreciate you and how you feel.
Yes, and also important thing. I know that we live in a moment. We live in an era of social media. I know that social media has been getting a lot of negativity, but also social media does sometimes help, because you might never know who you might reach out to on social media. Because I know there was this man who was going through a certain abuse, and he did speak up on social. He actually spoke about it on TikTok, and there were a lot of people who were supporting him.
Comments.
And eventually, others came out and said, "Look, I'm going through the same thing you're going through." So you might never know who you might be impacting when you come out and when you speak out and when you say that this is what I'm going through and this is the problem, and if you need help or you need someone to talk to, you might never know who you might be impacting.
Exactly, because someone might be in your same shoes. Someone might have been in that same predicament that you were in, and they can help you get through that.
Right.
They can help you get through that.
Right. All right. So with that being said, this is where we're going to end our show. Once again, we thank you all so much for taking a moment to tune in. Kyla, thank you very much for taking the time to be here. And also, as always, feel free to like, share, subscribe, and also I will also be leaving our Instagram, our info in the description below. Thank you all so much and stay blessed.
Bye.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode of TAC Connect. And as always, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And feel free to follow us on our Instagram page at TCIONY.